everybody, and welcome to, oh, good lord. The hair is doing things this morning. Probably would have helped if I would have brushed it, but you know, Sundays aren't for brushing your hair. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. Oh, this is gonna be a rough day. It's gonna be a rough day. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. Maybe I should just leave all that in. Maybe that is the intro. Welcome to a reading wrap-up. We are going to be doing my January 2024 reading wrap-up. It is Sunday morning. I was supposed to have this out Sunday morning. I still might be out at some point on Sunday. But next door neighbor, what have I been calling him? Jeff? Something like that. He is power washing something. He is always doing something. It is hard to film lately with him not doing something. So if you hear any type of like whirring in the background, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try and take it out in post. But sometimes that can mess with, like, I don't have like a bunch of like super fancy equipment. So sometimes it'll mess up the sound quality even more. So we'll see. But it's not too loud right now. But we're gonna go over the books that I read in January. January was a really interesting month. A very, very interesting month. I had so many DNFs. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, because it's lazy Sunday, I'm still ready for relaxation, even though I have to go to work later. I'm also trying to be comfortable this morning because I have to go to work later and I don't want to. I'm repping my favorite oversized t-shirt with the Star Wars Ewoks and Chewbacca. I love it. It's my favorite oversized t-shirt. I'm all over the place, okay? This is just how it's gonna be this morning. I DNF'd 6 books. I DNF'd 6 books this month. I can't talk about one of them because it is an SMP book. It is the popular sequel to a book everyone loved last year. I DNF'd that one. And once the boycott's over, we'll go back and talk about a bunch of this stuff. But yeah, I DNF'd that one, literally the first thing I did this month. And then got rid of my Fairy Loot copy of the original book, which was nice because I used that towards the ceiling repair costs that we had from the exploded water heater. So anyway, that leaves us to talk about 5 DNFs. And then this month I read 8 books. And I did not like a lot of them. Or they were just like, okay. Well, no, looking at it, I liked a lot of them. It just feels like I didn't read anything. Like, it literally feels like I did not read anything. I had a bit of a relapse for a week in January, so for about a week I didn't read anything, which really cut into my reading time. And then I had the vacation in Savannah, which again hurt my reading time. And then I've had I worked a weekend, which hurts. But generally, I don't know. I kept picking things up. Like, I have 6 DNFs. I kept picking things up and starting them, and I would get pretty decently far into it, and then I just, like, didn't like the book or wasn't interested in what was going on. So I had a really, really rough reading month. So let's go ahead and talk about the DNFs. So the first book that I DNF'd, other than the SMP book, was this Wretched Valley. I actually don't think this is a bad one. This is just a book that is not for me. This is a horror book that is following a group of climbers, kind of. It's like a mix of group of scientists and climbers. So it's this graduate student whose goal is to find this, like, a cliff that's never been climbed before, and that's going to be his thesis, and that's what's going to make him, because finding these areas is like really, really important, and you go down in history in the climbing world. And so he finds supposedly this area that no one's ever seen before, and it's like perfect. It looks absolutely perfect, but you kind of know they all like die already. Like, the beginning starts with saying basically this is what happens, and then you go back in time to actually see what happens. And once I found out that literally like almost everyone dies, because I don't know if everyone does, at least mostly people die, everyone dies, I was just not interested in it. It was starting to give off vibes of like The Ruins and other types of gory stories that I don't like. So I got about 50 pages in. The writing is good. I just don't like the actual inner guts of it. Like, I guess the cover is so cool. Like, you'll see this Wretched Valley, the cover is so cool. So I actually would recommend this one to people who like horror a lot, especially like gory and survival horror. There you go, survival horror. I tend to be more of like a fan of young adult horror or slasher horrors, and this is not what I like. And overly gory stuff I'm just not a fan of. So I actually would recommend this one to people who want to pick up a quick survival horror, but if you don't like gory stuff, it's probably not going to be the one for you. So then I DNF'd when I was really sad about DNFing, but I did not make it far into this book. I DNF'd Butcher and Blackbird. I did not like this. I don't know why people like this so much, to be honest. I feel like it's gonna ruffle a couple of feathers. I didn't get it. I thought the writing was horrendous. It wasn't even just like subject matter. The writing was so cringy and so bad. It felt like it needed to be edited like 17 million more times. It was so awful. It's literally one of the books, like, when I think about books just being published without editing, this is the kind of books that I'm talking about. Like, I think this book could have been probably really good if it had some semblance of editing done on it, but oh my gosh, it was so bad. And then I also just ended up not liking the overly sexual tone of the entire book. I knew it was going to be in there, but I didn't think it was going to be in there to the extent that it was. It just immediately jumped into sexual everything, and I was like, I don't love mixing that with like serial killer stuff, and that part didn't work for me either. But the biggest part was it felt like it wasn't edited. So that's my own personal take on that one. Then one that I was supposed to be reading for my TBR game, I was supposed to be reading The Red Scholar's Wake, and I absolutely hated it. I got 70 pages. I kept trying to push for this one because it's a short book. I got 70 pages in, and I didn't like anything about it. It was so confusing. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't like the characters. I just generally didn't like anything that was going on in it. And then I read some reviews, and it seems like there's almost some asexual phobia in it later on, which I don't like. So that, again, I can't say for 100% sure because I did not read it, but a lot of comments were talking about how some of the characters were in, like, a non-asexual character was in a relationship with an asexual character and wasn't very, like, respectful of it. So that made me a little, like, cringy and be like, okay, I'm kind of glad I didn't finish it. So I don't know what that's about. Again, I didn't read it, so I can't 100% say. So if you have read it and you saw something like that, definitely let me know, or whatever. I got rid of it already. I'm not reading it. like if you say it's good or it gets better, I'm not gonna be reading it. I just really didn't like anything about it. And then the next one that I DNF'd is probably the saddest one that I've DNF'd, is Somewhere in the Deep by Tam V. Burwa. Previous book was Monsters Born and Made. I gave it like a 4.25, 4.5. Absolutely loved it. I was so excited to read another book from this author in the same world. Like, this book runs parallel to Monsters Born and Made. They happen at the exact same time. And I was so excited, but this book was so not good. It is following, it's on a different island than the first book, and it's following a group of, not really, it's following a group of adventurers, basically. So our main character is a monster hunter, and she gets basically forced into bringing this group of people down into this mine shaft system. It basically is what keeps most of the islands afloat, what comes out of that mine. And they say that a bunch of miners have gone in there, disappeared, and they want to go on a rescue mission. The government wants them to go on a rescue mission, or the rich people want them to go on a rescue mission. And you realize pretty quickly that that's not exactly what's going on, and there's monsters and stuff like that. But it was so boring. It promised like monster fighting and interesting stuff, and it was just mostly them yelling at each other and going down this mine shaft and nothing happening. Literally nothing. Didn't buy the romance either, which was a problem in the first book as well. I did not like the romance in the first one either, but it didn't bother me. The one in this one I just didn't care about. Like, it was just annoying. Like, it existed to be annoying. It didn't need to be in the book. So I generally just didn't like anything in this book really either. And I pushed to read this one. I think I read about 60% of this book, and it felt like I was reading for days. This is a book that actually kind of put me in a book slump. I'm so upset about it because this was one of my more anticipated books this year, and I hated it. I literally hated it. So I'm giving it a DNF because it was not getting anything higher than a 2. And I skimmed the ending, and the ending was terrible. It was bizarre, terrible. I hated it, and it probably would have ended up being a 1 because of disappointment level. And then the last one that I DNF'd this month is The Immortality Thief. This is another one from my TBR game. I am so upset about this one. Like, I even have a Goldsboro edition that I bought. I was 1000% positive I was going to love this book. It has everything I like in it. Like, abandoned space station, there's monsters. Why are you power washing your car? Is that a thing? I didn't realize that was a thing. Like, he is straight up power washing, like with a fancy power washer. He's power washing his car. I know my husband does it, but that's because he works at a quarry with like rocks and mud and this like stuff that gets on his car that like literally turns into like cement, and he has to power wash it off because there's no other option. But this car is clean. Why are you power washing your car when it looks clean? So this one turned out to be less about surviving like the space station and survival story, and turned more into about this like alien race trying to find the Philosopher's Stone. And I should have known because it even like mentions the Philosopher's Stone in here, but I didn't think that was gonna be like the majority of the book. When I've heard people talking about it, it's about the survival story aspect of this, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like the writing style either, and I really didn't like the humor in it. Normally I'm cool with like dumb humor, like dumb boy humor. It was so cringy. It was so cringy. I could not stand it, and I was like, I can't do this for this many pages. I can't. I even got the audiobook and tried doing the audiobook, and I was just like drifting off while listening to the audiobook. And it's a series on top of that, so I was like, as much as I really want to try, I could like keep pushing and try this one. Yeah, this was a DNF. This one did not work whatsoever for me. Moving on to books that I actually finished. Let's talk about the one audiobook that I read first. I read Love, Pamela, because I was on a kick after I like memoirs. They're kind of interesting and they're kind of good as like background and stuff. You don't need to like super pay attention if you don't have to. So I like listening to them at work. This one didn't work for me. And I don't know if it's because Britney Spears' memoir was just so good that this one just felt lackluster compared to it. I didn't give it a rating because it is a nonfiction memoir. Like, it feels weird rating those unless they are like a 5-star, I absolutely loved it. So I didn't rate this one, and I generally didn't love it. I feel like I really liked the section about her childhood. She spent most of the book what felt like on her childhood and you getting to know what her childhood was like, which explained like a lot about her. But the second we got to her adult life and her relationships, she glossed over everything. Like, she was super nice about Playboy. She didn't say nothing negative about Playboy whatsoever. And maybe she had a good experience, but generally it seems like most people at least had one bad story, or would say like, yeah, it was great, it got me a jump start, but like I wish this had done differently, or this is what happened. She glossed right over that. She glossed over pretty much all of her relationships. And then the last like 30% of the book, what felt like, it was just her listing off her achievements and her work with like PETA and her other good service works. And it was like, am I listening to a resume? Like, I want to hear about that stuff, but in a more natural way. Like, it felt like she was like literally handing us her CV and resume. And I didn't like reading that. Like, it just felt very boring and dry, and it felt like I wasn't getting a hint as to who she was. It was more like this book was a front of like, hey, this is who I'm presenting you to. And I don't know, if you're gonna write a memoir, you need, like, I feel like you should be writing it to talk about difficult things in your life, not as a, and it's not even the drama. Like I said, I liked hearing about her family and her childhood. You didn't even need to put the boyfriends in. I just wanted to hear more about her life as she saw it instead of lists of achievements, if that makes sense. It's hard to talk about memoirs without being like, ooh, I just want all the drama, because that isn't the case, because Britney had way more drama than she needed to, like, there's way more drama in her life than she talked about. There was a lot of stuff that she also glossed over, but she hit some, like, important points in her life that Pamela didn't, if that makes sense. So I feel like I just didn't learn anything more about her than what she already presents, like, face value to the media. So I wanted more of her reactions to things and how she felt about stuff, because I feel like that's where you get the empathy from. A lot of people see Pamela as like a sex symbol and they don't see her as a person. I really wanted to like feel more of how she felt in situations, because she was treated so badly a lot of her life. So I kind of wanted that. That's what I liked about Britney's book, is you got to feel how she felt during things. And that just didn't happen during Pamela's book. And I had one e-arc that I did finish, because I DNF'd a lot of e-arcs, because somewhere in the deep, and This Wretched Valley were both arcs. And I did finish one arc though. I ended up reading Heartset Cut, the second book in the duology for the Threads That Bind series that we read for our book club. 2.5. It was really bad. It was not good. Oh my gosh. Nothing was fixed with the romance in this book because pretty much everyone agreed, at least in the book club, that the romance was very lackluster. It didn't really mean much. Kind of would have been better if Eddie and her were just friends. And that felt similar to the second book. It was like whatever. It didn't really matter that much. And 90, oh, that's high. That's me being dramatic. 70% of the book was Io with a character at the end of the first book just traveling and not doing anything for that much of the book. And it's a short book. Like, it's not a long book to get a lot done. So they left the last 30% for everything that we had to do. And the last 30% was okay. I don't know if I love the ending. The ending was a bit odd. So I am doing an arc video where I talk about spoilers about Threads That Bind for people who read it last year, and that way I can talk about my opinion on Heartset Cut a little bit more, because the stuff that happened at the end of Threads That Bind that I was worried about continued on into Heartset Cut. So I talk about that a little bit more in that vlog that I'm still working on, and hopefully will sometime come out. I don't know. I'm so behind on vlogs. Like, I'm so bad at doing them. So yeah, I give that one a 2.5. It was just not good. I was very, very sad. That was one of my more anticipated books this year, and I did not like it. Okay, moving on to physical books that we read this year. I feel like this stack is a little bit better, minus there's one. There's one. You should know which one it is already. But the first one that I read was Daisy Hates. I really like this one. This is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe, but this is following Daisy Hates. So it's interesting how these books are written. She writes one in Magnolia Parks' perspective and like what's going on there, and then the second book is a Daisy Hates book that takes place parallel with the first book, but in Daisy Hates' side of the universe. And I really, really like this one. I did like this one better than the second Magnolia Parks book, the third book in the series, which I also have on this list. I give this one a 4. Did I give it a 4? I think I give it a solid 4. Didn't feel as connected. Like, I felt super connected between Daisy and Christian, but I didn't feel as much of the turmoil like what was between Magnolia and BJ. Something about the relationship between Magnolia and BJ is just like heartbreaking and just so impactful that's why that one got like a 4.5 and this one only got a 4, because I just didn't feel it as much. Even though I like Daisy and Christian better than Magnolia and BJ, I don't like their drama as much as Magnolia and BJ, which is really weird. So anyway, I gave this one a 4. I still really, really enjoyed it. I love these covers. I'm collecting the UK covers, which led me to a bit of a problem because these used to be the covers in the US as well, but they're shortened. As I say, I'm just gonna pull it out. It's also heavier. So I got this one. This is the third Magnolia Parks, and so I bought them off Pango because I should have just bought them off Blackwell's. Bought them off Pango, and yeah, this one, didn't realize it was the American edition. So I'm gonna have to go and buy I think it's called C format. I'm gonna have to buy the C format of this one so I can match the rest of them, because the rest of them I have in C format. So anyway, yeah, like this book, give it a 4-star. If you didn't like Magnolia Parks, you're not gonna like Daisy Hates. You're not gonna like the rest of these books in the series. So I wouldn't even bother continuing if you thought maybe you'd like Daisy Hates' side better. You're not gonna like it. Next up, for my TBR, I actually finished a book for the TBR game. Out of the 4 books that I have to read, I've read 1, Aurora Rising. I really, really enjoyed this. This was really good. I was really scared to read this because of how good Illuminae files were to me. And this is also by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, but it's different. It's very different. It also doesn't do like the multimedia stuff that the Illuminae files does. I loved it. It's not as good as the Illuminae files. I think I gave all 3 Illuminae files 5 stars. This one I think I gave a 4.25, just because it did start dragging a little bit in the middle, but I still tabbed it because there's a relationship in here that I love. There's like, all the tabs are literally just stuff that he's doing. That's literally all these tabs are. I love the romance in this. I love the characters. This made me sob like a baby at the end of it. And I knew it was coming. Every Jay Kristoff book that I read, I cry. So I should have known it was coming, but I still sobbed like a freaking baby. But it is following our main character. It's been a while since I read this one. And I did get the other two. Like, I have the other two upstairs, and I do plan to read them. But it is following our main characters who, it's a lot of main characters. Like, I thought we were just gonna be following, is it Aurora? Yeah, Aurora. I thought we'd just be following Aurora, but we were following a whole squad of people, and it's basically the Reject Squad, and they are sent on a mission that turns out to be completely different than what they were expecting, and they are drawn into this super dangerous intergalactic save the world mission kind of thing. And it's fun. There's some heists in here. I love the heist. The heist was so much fun. And the characters are just great. I really, really like the characters. Very emotionally connected to them already. And it was just a fun time. So if you want a young adult sci-fi book that is similar to Illuminae, you gotta read this one. The next one that I read is everyone's favorite Twilight fanfiction book, Midnight is the Darkest Hour. I did give this a 1 star. I feel like you all should know by now. If you haven't gone and watched it, number one, don't read this book. Don't read this book. If you haven't gone and watched it, go watch, I'm gonna link it, but go watch my full spoiler breakdown of this. It was so much fun. I used a pointer and everything. Like, it was a great time. Basically broke down the book so you didn't have to read it. I read it so you guys don't have to read it. And it's really bad. It is really actually atrocious. But in, like, kind of a fun way. Like, it's except for the ending. The ending alone is enough to tell me to never, ever, ever let anybody read this. Like, do not read this just because of the ending. But it was just bad. It was just bad. I break it down. Definitely go check out that video. But it's Twilight fanfiction. That's all it is. It's a murder mystery Twilight fanfiction, which sounds good. I'm making people want to read it, I feel like, but don't do it. Next up, I read Magnolia Parks. The Long Way Home, Magnolia Parks. This is a direct follow-up to the first Magnolia Parks book. This takes place after Magnolia Parks and after Daisy Hates. And then this one takes place at the same time as this one and the 4th book in the series, the next Daisy Hates book, which I'm about to start at some point this month. I'm so excited because then the 5th one, the 3rd Magnolia Parks, the 5th book in the series, the 3rd Magnolia Parks book is coming out sometime early this year. So I'm really excited about it, but I gave this one a 4 star. This one had a similar problem with the first book where it dragged, but it was very frustrating. Like, with the first one, I kind of like dealt with the dragging and I loved it. And I got over a bit of the middle section that didn't really need to exist. I was kind of like, whatever. This one, you felt it. You felt the drag with this one. It went on for about 200 pages longer than it really needed to. I still loved it. Like, these are my tabs of stuff that BJ says and Magnolia says that I love. But they were more frustrating in this book than the first one because they didn't have, in my opinion, legitimate reasons not to be together really in this book compared to the first book because we were still dealing with some hurt. In this one, it just felt like they were being really stubborn to the point of just being stupid. And I was like, and yet I still loved it. I still ate it up. I read it super quick. I still loved reading it, but it was very frustrating. And I wanted to slap BJ and Magnolia so many times in this book. So I still give it a 4 star. If you like the rest of the series, you're going to like this one. The ending though. The ending, I am shocked. Like, what? Like, what was that ending? So I'm dying for the 3rd Magnolia Parks book to finally come out this year because I need to know what happened. Because Daisy Hates, the 4th book, is just going to be at the same time as this, and I think it ends when the thing happens in this. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened. I can't. I really, really need to know what happens. So I really need that 5th Magnolia Parks book, like, immediately. Okay, we are on to our last 2 books. I'm really not going to talk about this next one because it's a reread. I reread Every Heart a Doorway. I am reading this for a full Wayward Children series reading vlog. I am trying to read all of them. I am slow because I don't like rereading. I really, really don't like rereading books unless it's like very, very specific books. And I actually will say I liked this better than the first time I read it, having read the 2nd book in the series. I was kind of on this one, but after reading the 2nd book in the series and then coming back to this one, I was like, you know what? I actually like it a lot better. So I think originally I gave it a 3 or 3.5. rounded up to a 4 on Goodreads. It's actually a solid 4 now, I would say. I actually really enjoy this. I like the characters better. I understand the world and the characters better now. Once I get through the second book, it should go a lot faster because then it's new material, because I've only ever read the first and the second book. So it should be new material after that, and then it should go a lot faster. So I'm looking at that vlog being somewhere February, March, or April. It just depends how I'm reading and what's going on. Because right now I'm trying to read the Crescent City books for a vlog for that. And it's not going well. It's really not going well. But yeah, I enjoyed this much better, which was nice. And then the final book that I read this month, I read The Unmaking of June Pharaoh. Technically, I actually read Heartset Cut last, but this is my last physical book that I read. I read The Unmaking of June Pharaoh for the book club, and I am so happy that this is a 5-star. I loved this book. It was so good, and I definitely think part of me loved it because this is the style of like human connection that I like in a book. It's so similar, in my opinion, to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I gave that a 5-star. That is a book that lives in my brain like forever. I loved that book, and this one gave me similar vibes in a shortened, more condensed version. So if you thought The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was boring, I actually would try this because it is a quicker, more engaged version, I feel like, of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue takes you on this long journey, while this is a quick journey through a bunch of information. So this one's really, really good. You're following our main character, June Pharaoh, who comes from a long line of Pharaoh women who all have this sort of strange madness that drives them crazy in the end, and she has already started getting glimpses of that. And not a spoiler, the book opens up with her grandmother dying, and it kind of sets off her adventure for the rest of the book, and it's so good. And there is time travel in this. I don't like time travel, and it worked really well with this. Like, there are still some like couple of plot holes in there, but generally this was really, really good, and it was cute, and this is like the definition of cozy. It's cozy fantasy, I would say. I think this is cozy fantasy with a little bit of drama in there, and it's a murder mystery, and it was so good. It was so good. I cannot say like enough good things about this. This was my favorite book of the month, easily. I would say that the Magnolia Park books are more addicting, but this is a way better book. It was so good. Easy 5-star, and I love that our first book club pick of the month was a 5-star. So I would definitely recommend this to pretty much anybody. Like, I really think anybody could read this and enjoy this, and it was just a really fun time. Those are all the books that I read in January. Like I said, it wasn't a like great reading month. It wasn't bad. Like, the Magnolia Park books definitely were really fun to read. Aurora Rising, it literally feels like January lasted for like 5 months because I forgot that I read Aurora Rising in this month, and that I did the Midnight is the Darkest Hour video. Like, I'm shocked. Like, I'm so confused about like what happened. Anyway, yeah, that is everything that I read. It was an okay month. I wish that I'd gotten through a couple more things. There were some things I really wanted to get through this month. I'm sad I had so many DNFs. Like, I think that is the most DNFs I've ever had in a month, but I'm also like happy with myself that I'm not forcing myself to read things, and it's keeping me out of major reading slumps. Anyway, if you have made it to the end of this video, I am so happy you are still here. I'm actually currently trying to decide which book that I want to do for my next reading your worst books and doing a chart about it because I want to do another one for February because it's just kind of fun. So right now I'm kind of between A Twisted Love Story, which I don't actually own that book, but it's by Samantha Downing, I think. A lot of people really did not like it, and it bugged a lot of people. A lot of people were like, what the heck is this? So I feel like it would be perfect for this video. Or I have Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey, which a lot of people are like, it's a really good book until the end. And it's got such a low rating on Goodreads, mostly because it seems like the end. So I could do the Sarah Gailey. I'm kind of between those two. I have a couple other choices, but those are kind of the two main ones. So I would love to hear your opinions about which one you think I should do, or if you have another recommendation of what you saw people reading as their worst books. But I kind of want something fun. Like, it needs to be a little bit fun because, like, the Sarah Gailey I've heard is super weird, and A Twisted Love Story is just drama, is what I've heard. So I kind of want something fun to do these videos with, or they're kind of a downer. So anyway, yeah, so if you have any recommendations for that, I would love to hear it, or your opinion about which one or the other. I did hear some people already say that they're interested in seeing a video like that for Just Like Home, so it's kind of winning right now, but we'll see. And again, I already own that book, so that helps. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Make sure you comment down below about the books, about what you guys read this month, etc. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And I'll see you guys in the next video.